I look to you on the field. And it actually helped me grow as a leader so much on, okay, how do I use my voice? And I felt like you balanced me, Becky. You were like, actually, maybe we should get on the plane. Maybe we should actually show up for the game, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Teaming Up with Becky Sauerbrunn, brought to you by the Women's Game. I'm Becky, and this is a show where we meet people in and around the game of soccer, the leaders, the thinkers, the doers, and connect with who they are by talking about what they love and what they nerd out on. Today, we're teaming up with Jrue Holiday, former U.S. Women's National Team forward and midfielder, World Cup winner, two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time NWSL champion with FC Kansas City, and we'll throw in NWSL MVP as well, because why not? If you ask me who the best player I've ever played with or against, it's her. But she's not just incredible on the field. Her journey of finding an identity outside of soccer after she retired from the game is truly inspiring. And the amazing work she's doing with her family's foundation, the JLH Social Impact Fund, is changing lives. Her story is one of a kind, and she is a prime example of how important it is for athletes to use their platforms and privileges for activism in their communities. What I really enjoy about this podcast is that it's a peek behind the curtain that reveals why people in this sport are so amazing. For some guests, we discover that together. And for others like Lauren, whom I've known and admired for so long, I really just need to step aside and let her shine, because she is a fountain of honesty, determination, and heart. And I really think that comes through from the very start of our conversation today. It thrills me to no end that the NWSL recognizes her efforts and will be giving a player the Jrue Holiday Social Impact Award for their work in their community during NWSL Championship Week. Hers is a legacy that should be known and celebrated and passed down to the generations of players to come. All right, everybody, here's my conversation with Lauren. It's a very inspiring day on the pod. We have Jrue Holiday joining us. Lauren, welcome to Teaming Up.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk to you, Beck.
It's kind of crazy to think that you've been retired for 10 years. It really feels like just yesterday we were in Kansas City training in the Midwest heat. There's so much that I want to get into today, but I want to go back to that kind of chapter one of your journey through the sport. You grew up playing soccer in Indianapolis, inspired by your brother's love for the game as a kid. You blew away club and high school coaches with your advanced skills at such a young age, which I am not surprised with at all. But what were your impressions of soccer that had you so locked in from a young age?
I think for me, I don't know about you, Beck. I feel like you would be similar. I was obsessed with winning. I wanted to win and I wanted to be the best. So anybody that came my way, my brother, didn't matter how old they were, I wanted to be the best. We would play street hockey in the street. We would play football. We would play basketball. Whatever sport we could play, we would play. And I thought I was the best at every single one. But for some reason, soccer just had my heart. I never wanted to put the ball down. Remember the kickbacks? You put the ball in the net and you took it. If my mom made me go to the grocery store, I would take it with me and she'd be like, please don't knock anything off the shelves.
Of course not. Watch this.
Yeah. And I feel like I was obsessed with it. I wanted to beat everybody, but I also wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to have the most juggles. I wanted to, once I figured out juggling, game over. The ball never left the foot. And I definitely broke lots of things in the house, but I don't know. I guess soccer just stuck. I played basketball all the way through high school. I love basketball too. But soccer was definitely my first love.
It must have served you really well, because you actually left high school a little early to train with the U20s for a year, right?
Yeah. So 2006, I think I went to my first women's national team camp. And then after that, I decided I would graduate early because I was playing on the U20s and we had a world championship that year. And I was like, why am I in high school still if I get to go travel the world? So I doubled up on an English and I graduated in January. And yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I'm all in.
And you were one of the new kids on the senior national team. US Soccer put out these videos about you, Tobin Heath, and Amy Rodriguez, called the new kids. And it was basically introducing you guys to the world in preparation for the 2008 Olympic roster. And I went back and watched it. And I don't know if you've gone back to watch it in a while, but it is so gosh dang wholesome. I mean, you three are answering questions about your favorite foods, your least favorite classes since a lot of you were in college. I mean, it's super adorable. And if you haven't seen these videos, I highly recommend looking them up. But the time before the 2008 Olympics was also a little bittersweet because Abby Wambach got injured ahead of the games and she'd missed the tournament. And you got called up as the replacement player, right?
Yep, I was the alternate. Pia named the roster. There were a few of us that were like still, battling for that position. And the last game, she's like, Che, you're like left midfielder or right midfielder. And I'm like, ugh, I've never done that before. Like I had only played, at that point, I was playing attacking mid and forward. And so she threw me in and I was atrocious. Like it was like the worst game I've ever played. And Abby came off the field and she was like, you tried. And I was like,
thanks, Abs.
Thanks, Abs. Great encouragement. And so I went home, I got cut, and Tobin and A-Rod made it, and I remember them like crying on the bed with me, and I'm like, no, you guys should celebrate. Like, you guys just made your first Olympic team. Like, you gotta go celebrate. And I went home and I'm getting ready, like, I'm going back to college. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going back. I'm never gonna like get cut again. That was my mindset. I'm gonna do everything I can. Signed up for summer school to get back there early. And I remember my dad was watching the game in the living room and he's like, oh, and he asked me like to come out there. He's like, I think Abby's hurt. And I'm like, Abby's dramatic, like very dramatic. I'm like, she's fine. And he's like, no, I don't think so. This looks bad. And literally not 10 minutes later, Cheryl Bailey was calling me.
Cheryl Bailey, who was the general manager of the team at the time.
The GM of the team.
Wow.
And she calls me, and then not 5 minutes after Cheryl calls me, Abby calls me. And she says, I'm 90% sure my leg is detached from my body. Once again, drama. But she says, you're going to the Olympics. Like, I'm so proud of you.
Did you feel like, okay, this is my time? You said you were never going to get cut from another team. Were you like, okay, I'm taking this opportunity and I'm going to make the most out of it?
In fact, I was pissed. I'm like, I was pissed. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't want to make the team this way. Everyone knows I got cut. Like, I'm the last player on the roster. Like, I didn't want my first Olympics to be that way. I was pissed. I didn't even go tell my parents. Like, my parents are in the other room. They have no idea that I just got told that I'm going to the Olympics. I'm pretty sure I was like, I need to go on a drive or I need to, like, clear my head. And that's when I decided, I was like, okay, it is what it is. Like, this isn't what I imagined, but I'm going to be the best, like, freaking teammate there ever was. Because reality was, I was like, I'm never going to play a minute.
But you did wind up playing. You played in 3 games, right?
Yep. And I like, cheered my butt off. Literally, they called this team annoying, which I know you're probably not surprised. Tobin and I on the bench and A-Rod were, like, going insane. And then the quarterfinal game, Pia was like, Che. And I'm like, me?
Moi?
Like, wait. And so I went and I warmed up and I ran on the field. I didn't even have my shin guards on.
Stop it.
I forgot my shin guards on the bench. But I played the quarters, semis, and finals after that. And I swear it was because I was so locked in to, like, cheering for everybody else that when she called my name, I was like, I'm already in the game. Like, I'm yelling my butt off. Like, I'm so locked in. So the transition to playing, it wasn't as difficult because I was just, like, so focused on trying my best to, like, give whatever I could on the bench.
Yeah, all those off-field good vibes carried on to the on-field good vibes. I love that. And y'all won gold, and that was your first gold medal, so congratulations for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a good one. It was a good one.
It's not bad, not bad. And then in 2009, you played a bit with the USL's California-based team, the Pally Blues, because there wasn't a professional league at the time. And then that next year, you got drafted by the Boston Breakers in the 2010 WPS draft. And for those who may be unfamiliar with the short life of women's professional soccer, it was the US's second attempt at establishing a pro league for the women's game in the early 2000s. And, due to organizational struggles, legal issues, it only ran for 3 years and it was suspended in 2012. It was still a really big deal for us players who wanted a chance to go pro in the US. What kind of expectations did you set for yourself as a younger player navigating this new and kind of tumultuous league?
I think I went into the WPS naive. because you in college, like all of the national team players pretty much dominated in their college team. And I think I just assumed like I play at this level, I'm going to go play professionally, I'm going to dominate, but it was so challenging. Like, it was so challenging. I got drafted to Boston. I just like could not find my footing at first. Like I felt like it was so hard to figure it out. I'm like watching Kelly Smith play and I'm like, well, she's amazing. Like I had never like trained with, competed with day to day someone of her, caliber where I'm playing day in and day out. And I feel like I struggled. I struggled with the coaching dynamic. Tony DeChico probably wanted to like knock my head off. He was probably like, why did we draft this girl? Because he would say something and I'm like, I don't agree. And he's like, who are
Shocking.
you? Yeah. And so like really figuring out my role, I feel like the WPS was like a struggle for me. And I feel like I had always played soccer because I loved it so much. And in college, like I equally loved it as much as I did when I was playing youth soccer. And then I went to professional and I'm like, oh, there's like a dynamic to this that I wasn't ready for.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of wild because even playing for the Freedom, I mean we had Sonia Bonpastor, French player, Hamari Sawa,
The
Japanese
best.
player, like literally the best player in the world in 2011. So I totally get it. I was right there with you. I mean 2012 was a great year in general. There was the announcement that the NWSL was going to be starting up, and in 2013 it was announced that Nicole Barnhart and myself would be joining you as the first three players to be allocated to FC Kansas City. We were co-captains of the team. I worked closely with the technical and medical staff to make sure like our soccer environment was as good as it could be. And you really ensured that the players were being treated well and given what they needed should like certain issues arise. Although we were doing all this and you were doing all these off-field things, like you put on some amazing on-field work as well. After that first season, you won the Golden Boot. You were named the league's MVP. And I really think your success that season set the tone for like the level of excellence the fans were going to expect in this new league. What kind of emotional journey was that for you during those first few seasons, knowing already you had a huge role in the league's success because you were one of the league's premier players?
Okay, Kansas City, I loved. I remember when we got allocated, it was like me, you, and Nicole. And I'm like, well, duh. Of course they put the three of us there. Um, but I feel like we also were like happy. We were happy to be in Kansas City. And I don't think anyone else would
Nobody
have
wanted to go
been.
there.
No one wanted to go to Kansas City. So, like, I feel like we had an advantage already because we were like, actually, this is where we want to be. And we were good with it. And I feel like it was so cool because we actually got to mold and shape our experience really all together. And I loved being your co-captain. I feel like I feel like we agreed on almost everything, but how we execute things is very different.
Yeah, you're way more brave than I was.
But you would support me. So it was
Oh, of
like,
course.
okay, well, yes, like we agree on this. And then I loved that we had that dynamic because there was never like a question of like, was there turmoil? Was there this? Was there that? It was like the girls knew who to go to on off the field stuff, and the girls knew who to go to on the field. And I love that because I look to you on the field. And it actually helped me grow as a leader so much on, okay, how do I use my voice? And I felt like you balanced me, Becky. You were like, actually, maybe we should get on the plane. Maybe we should actually show up for the game, Lauren. Maybe we shouldn't just say we're done. And so I think that really helped me grow in my leadership and how I wanted to show up as a leader.
Yeah, we definitely had our fair share of things that we needed to tackle. I just remember so distinctly our turf field that first year. And I mean, seriously, like imagine a Midwest high school field where football, lacrosse, field hockey, ultimate frisbee, soccer, I mean, all the teams would play on it, 6 different lines. And I don't think anyone who came to play us knew what was actually out of bounds, which really worked in our favor, actually.
I like still can't believe that Kansas City like had the first purpose-built stadium. Cause when I go there, I'm like, it could have been so beautiful. It could have been so different.
Oh,
We would have won every year, all the things.
how far they have come. But even despite all of that, I mean, we were kicking butt with FC Casey. We were also kind of bouncing back and forth in preparation for the 2015 World Cup. And this World Cup was your swan song. You announced pretty shortly after the tournament that you would be retiring. But a few of us knew beforehand that you were thinking about hanging up the boots. And I was hoping that you would share with us like how you knew it was time. I mean, you were playing at such a high level for club and country. You just won a World Cup. You knew the Olympics were a year away. What went into the decision?
So it's interesting. Probably like 2 years before that, I had it on my heart, like heavy on my heart, that I was like, okay, I like want to do more. I want to do something. I feel like soccer is very selfish and not in a bad way. Like, I feel like the selfishness is what we were made for. Like, we were made to like give our all to something. Like, as humans, we should put like everything we got into something. If you don't, I feel like you're missing out on a lot of like growth, rewards, all of the things. But I felt like it was selfish in the sense that I focused on myself a lot. Even not just in my relationship with Jrue, but in with my family. Like, I missed funerals, I missed weddings, I missed all the things. So like, it had been on my heart for a couple years. I knew I wanted to win a World Cup before I went out. But I don't know, like that 2015 year, it was super challenging. And I don't think that's the reason why I was like, okay, this is my final straw. But I think it led to me like really doing some self-reflection. I knew that I had to make the decision before the World Cup, because if we didn't win, I would have been like, nope, going again, 4 more years. Like, here we are, because I wanted to win so badly. So I made the decision before the actual World Cup started, I think in around January of that year. And I was like, I had come to peace with it. And I think that was really it. I had just prayed about it a lot. I felt like God had put it on my heart. And I was trying to follow through. And now, looking back, I feel like a lot of it had to do with maybe me knowing that something wasn't completely right.
You'd later find out that you had a benign brain tumor while you were pregnant with your daughter, Drew Tyler, JT for short. And thankfully, JT arrived healthy and you were able to have the tumor removed a month after she was born. It must have been a really tough time for your family and for you. So much of an athlete's identity is rooted in their health. And the same goes for expectant mothers. I mean, we want to be as healthy as we can be. We want to do everything that's possible to make sure the environment is best suited for the health of our baby. I'm understanding that more and more through my own pregnancy journey. And I'm wondering, what sort of things did you put your energy into during this time, mentally, physically, spiritually?
It's so funny because, like, as much as this sounds cliche and cheesy and blah, 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 but like, soccer prepared me for that. Like, you think about fitness, right? Beck, like, you think about running the beep test. We do all that, all the pressure that's put on us to do that. And you think about, like, how am I going to get through it, right? And, like, we've literally done it our whole entire lives. Like, how do I push myself to the brink so that I can be the greatest that I absolutely can be? And that was essentially what I had to do when I was pregnant. I got diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 6 months pregnant, but I knew something was wrong probably at 3 months. I started to have to tell myself to swallow. Like, I would be eating and I'd be like, wait, and I'd have to tell myself to swallow. My balance was off. I was driving one time to Target. I was literally like 30 minutes away from Target. I had no idea how I got there. I was like, wait, what happened? Like, so I stopped driving before I was ever diagnosed with anything, because I told Jrue, like, something's wrong. But when I was diagnosed at 6 months, I remember my doctor telling me the IQ between a 32 weeker and a 35 weeker is astronomical. And that's all he had to say. And I was like, I'm getting to 35 weeks. It doesn't matter if I'm like falling over. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. As long as I know that she's going to be as healthy as she can possibly be, I'm getting there. And I feel like I would use the same strategies I used while training or while I was like going through something really hard. I would say, like, I can do anything for an hour. Like, I can get through this headache. I just have to get through the next hour. Or I can do anything. Like, once they told me my C-section date, I'm like, I can do anything for 2 months. Like I got this. 2 months. All I have to do is get through it for 2 months. For me, that fighting the physical was so much easier for me than fighting the mental. Because I mean, as a pregnant mom right now, like imagining anything could be wrong with your child and trying to prepare for that and trying to prepare your husband for that. Like, I remember having conversations with Jrue, and I'm like, if something happens to me, you saved the baby.
Oh,
If something happens to me, or if this happens, I want you to do this. And he's like, I don't want to hear this. Why are you telling me this? You're going to be okay. We're going to make it through. But like the reality was, I didn't know that. And I remember like praying, and I would not have the words of what to say because I'm like, yes, I want God's will to be done, but I want to live. Like, I want to raise my daughter. I don't want someone else to raise my daughter. And I remember like, I'm very strong in my faith, and I never doubted, but I remember battling with that. Like, what is it that I should be asking for? Because I wanted to live and I wanted to raise my daughter, and yeah, so the mental side for me was much harder than fighting through the physical.
I read somewhere that the psalm, there may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning, is something that helped you get through that time. And I
Yeah.
think the right words at the right time can make us so strong. And I was just wondering, is that a psalm that you speak with your daughter now, if ever she's having a tough day or like tough moments?
You know what? I don't think I've ever like really harped that into her, but that is something that I live by for sure. At the end of my pregnancy and at like waiting for surgery, I was in a lot of pain. Like the brain tumor was so large, there was no space left in my head. So like I had a little bit of hydrocephalus and I had headaches all the time and just no balance and not feeling like yourself. And I remember like just repeating it over and over and over. Like it did help me get through it.
It's just truly remarkable. You are just truly remarkable. And I'm so glad that JT made it safe and sound. And you've mentioned Jrue a few times now, and he is currently a Portland Trailblazer, NBA All-Star, Olympic gold medalist. And you welcomed your second child, Hendrix, in 2020. And like, that's kind of when life truly began to change. Jrue went to the NBA bubble during the height of the pandemic. And he's mentioned in a lot of articles that he struggled being away from you and the kids, especially amid the eruption of social movements and protests in response to racially driven police brutality that summer, centered around the murder of George Floyd. And from this difficult time, your foundation, the JLH Social Impact Fund, was born. You both made the decision to pledge the remainder of Jrue's 2020 NBA salary of $5.3 million to combat socioeconomic inequality. That was incredible. And it spoke to so many people in professional sports about how using your platform really matters. And I was hoping that you could tell us more about the JLH Social Impact Fund and what your hopes were for that fund during the time.
Yeah, I think when we first initially started it, I think Jrue needed a reason to play. Like it was hard enough to leave your pregnant wife and your daughter, and being a black man in America at that time, like there was a lot that was heavy on his heart and he was struggling with. And I think he just needed a reason. And I remember us talking about him not going to the bubble, which was very feasible and a lot of people did. But it's like that doesn't make enough noise per se. Like you didn't go to the bubble, your wife's pregnant, understandable. People could rationalize it, they could understand it, but like how can we make a bolder statement to say like, hey, actually we want to help. We want to do something. And that was really like what we came down to. And I remember like at the beginning it was just how do we keep the lights on in businesses, and how do we give resources to nonprofits to really serve the underserved. And so really our goal was just to keep as many businesses alive and afloat. And since then it has become much more nuanced. There's an application system. We provide like coaching and resources outside of just funding. We really try to make it a family. So we have like family reunions where all of our businesses from every state can come, and really just being able to plug them in with the right people and give them more than just money, but community. Because let's be honest, white business owners, a lot of times they have funding from friends and family, and there's a generational wealth gap in the Black community, where the friends and family money doesn't come as easily, and then the bank funding is almost impossible. So really, we just like to think of ourselves as friends and family, and we get to come in and help them really kickstart their business.
That's so cool. And in June of 2020, you also wrote a piece for the Players Tribune that was so sharply relevant and really moving. And it was titled, I've Stayed Silent for Way Too Long. It spoke of the dynamics of being in an interracial relationship and the need for people to be anti-racist by using that privilege to actively fight against racism. And I'm also in an interracial relationship. I will be the mother of a baby boy who is biracial. And in the article, you mentioned thinking a lot about raising your children to be Black people in America. And I've been thinking a lot about that too. You know, as white parents of biracial children, what is our role? And you wrote in the article, quote, we owe our voices, and more than that, we owe our actions. I just want to thank you for both, for fighting to make this world better for your children, for my future child, for so many others. Do you have a better understanding of your role now?
Absolutely. Actually, one of our businesses and or one of our nonprofits in New Orleans, I was talking to her, and she basically like watches the ticker of people who are arrested and they can't make bail, and she bails them out because so many times people get stuck in jail because they can't even make bail money. I asked her, what's my job in this? Because I am a white woman in America. What is my role? And she told me, you open the door for me and you get out of the way. And and I remember thinking, wow, how many times we don't do that? How many times we think we're opening the door and we're still in the way? It's still about us. And so for me, I think about that all the time. How do you open the door for somebody else and truly get out of the way? How do you humble yourself to say, this is the work that I'm doing is for everybody else, and truly do that without an ego, without anything. And so that was one of the most powerful things, and I know that that's my role. I know that my role is to use my voice to say the things, but to really and truly get out of the way for the people who have experienced it, the people that are experiencing it, and the people whose voices truly need to be heard. And so that's my take on it, and that's the best advice I was given.
That's amazing advice. And that is so powerful. I don't know if you remember this ever happening, but our relationships were mentioned on a white supremacy internet forum kind of in the early 2000s. And they'd listed all the white US women's national team players who were dating people outside of their race. As a white woman advocating for the Black community and for Black-owned businesses, you've been subjected to online hate. And I'm just wondering, how do you navigate through that? Like, what keeps you strong?
Oh, I don't care at all. 0%. Literally could care less. I feel like if people know me, they know me, and like they know my heart, they know who I am, they know like how I show up. I was just at an art show, and it was like Black artists, and the artist was talking about why her canvases are all white and why the frame is white, and she was like, white America tries to keep us in this box, and so that was what it was representing. She's one of my dear friends, so like I love being able to have those conversations, because if we're not self-aware, if there's no self-awareness, and I feel like our country needs more of this self-awareness, it's like if I'm offended by that, then maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like the ignorance, that doesn't faze me at all. I just think how I'm raising Black children in America, I care vastly more than anything in the world about my children, and I'm going to care for all of the children the same way and the people the same way. So I know my heart, and so that doesn't. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well.
You know your heart. I love it. Your activism, of course, caught the attention of the NWSL, and ahead of the 2024 season, the Nationwide Community Impact Award was renamed to the Jrue Holiday Impact Award. And the award recognizes NWSL players for their dedication and commitment to giving back to their communities. When did you find out that they were changing the name to honor your work? Like, how did that feel to you?
Actually, I think it's the greatest honor I've ever gotten. And when they told me, I was like, wait, really? Like you're doing this for me? I was shocked. I like didn't even consider that in a million years. And I love it because there are so many amazing women in the NWSL. But because we don't have millions and millions of dollars and millions of sponsorship dollars poured into us all the time, we don't have this platform. We haven't had this platform. I feel like it goes unnoticed. However, I can highlight the women wanting to do more. Like, I just think it's so exciting. Because when I started this, I feel like I had to start in elementary school to learn, like, oh, what does this mean? How do I have an impact? What do I do? So just being able to share that with other people, I love it so much.
You've been like this NWSL blueprint. You've set the on-field standard for when it comes to player performance in the inaugural season, being named MVP. You've set the bar for social activism, and now the face of the league's commitment to giving back. You're also an investor, and you were previously a part of Angel City Ownership Group. And this past spring, you and Jrue announced the Holiday Family Trust was invested in the North Carolina Courage. And you're from Indiana, Jrue's from California. You're now in Portland. Why the Courage?
Well, their on-field brand, I loved. I loved how they play. But I think that it was just the opportunity at the time that I really, really enjoyed. I think there's so much growth potential in North Carolina. Yeah, I think that that's it. But my dream, truly my dream, is I would love to own a team outright. Like, I would love to be in control and own a team and be majority owner. So maybe one day that's what we're talking about.
If there's ever a need for, like a player advisory board, just consider me, please.
Oh my gosh, Beck, I have so many ideas. Now that we're going to live in the same city, we're back together.
I know.
We're taking over the world.
Watch out,
world. What do you mean? Yeah.
The legacy you've created outside of soccer with your social advocacy for underprivileged and underserved communities has changed the lives of so many. What does being a change maker mean to you? What do you want JT and Hendrix to feel when they see how much their mother has accomplished, not just as an athlete, but also as an activist?
I think about this a lot with my kids. I'm like, what do I want them to be? People ask, do you want them to be an athlete? You want them to be that? And I'm like, I want them to be kind. I think with all of this and how they view me, I want them to see joy. Because, truly, you don't do things, unless you have joy. It brings me so much joy to serve other people. And I hope that is something that I can instill in them.
I mean, you have brought a lot of joy to me and to the people that are going to listen to this podcast. And this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here to share your story. The idea for this podcast, teaming up with Becky Sauerbrunn, came from a little thing called the Nerd Squad. So we like to end the show asking our guests, what have you currently been nerding out on? And it can be absolutely anything, like a piece of art, a genre of media. What are you nerding out on?
There's a few things. So I would say my nerding out is I am currently going through reading the Bible in a year. And Jrue and he started before me. He didn't quite invite me. I invited myself. But he's also reading the Bible in a year. And then the show that I'm watching that I nerd out on and then I am embarrassed is The Summer I Turned Pretty. And when I watch it, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm watching this. But also, when is the next episode? So that's what I'm nerding out on. Not your type of show, I don't think.
Oh, Shay, I've watched the first 2 seasons. I just haven't had time to watch the third yet.
Yes. I thought you were going to tell me a dragon show or something.
I mean, there's always room for dragon shows. Thank you so much. This has been really enjoyable, really powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. And I can't wait to be best friends in Portland.
Yay! It was so wonderful to chat with my friend and teammate, Jrue Holiday. She dropped some lines throughout that conversation that will stay with me for a long time. She's truly one of the good ones, someone I've looked up to and will continue to look up to for how to use your platform to make meaningful change. I also just love how she calls it like it is. It's just so refreshing. She mentioned she's been nerding out on The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm so happy she mentioned a show because I've also been nerding out on a show this week, for the past several weeks, and that show is Love Island. And it's not the US version, although I watched that as well, but this is the UK version. And I think people are always really shocked when they hear that I watch a show like this, but it really is so fascinating to me. What a wild social experiment. It really just showcases the best and worst of human interaction, from true friendships and connection to toxic masculinity and pettiness. The more I hear about the behind the scenes shenanigans, the more I realize how the environment just exacerbates the tension, as if putting together 10 young, attractive people already isn't asking for drama. But then you find out that they have no communication with the outside world. They don't even get to know what time of day it is or even what day it is. And they're only given 1 day off a week from filming. And that is such a stressful environment. And it actually got me comparing it to training camps with the women's national team. I know, stick with me. I know it's not to the same degree, but it is so easy to lose perspective on things. I would just remember how one misstep or bad pass, or soccer gods forbid, you lose a 5v5 tournament, it can literally ruin your day. And at the very heart of it, whether it's Love Island or the women's national team, it's all for a game. It's for entertainment, for the world. Let us know what you're nerding out about right now. Email us at teamingup@meninblazers.com and join our nerd squad. Our quirky community is growing, and we're so glad to have you along for the journey. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more next week.